Muted.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining in on our webinar today. We're going to be taking a look at the newly upgraded administrator search tools. As mentioned in the email, we've got everyone's microphones muted. We've actually got 17 people logged in at the moment, so just to help avoid too much background noise, everyone's muted, but you should be able to just type any questions that you need into the chat interface. If I could just get people to just say hi into the chat interface to let me know that you know where it is, and also just to make sure that you can all hear me okay.
That's okay, because I just don't
So if you guys can, yep, okay, great. So you all hear me, which is fantastic. We're also recording the session, so if you need to take a copy and give it to someone else, or if you need to sign out at any stage, then we can send a copy of this demonstration through. Okay, so we'll start with just getting to the search interface. By the way, this is a demonstration site. You can see at the top there it says this site is for demonstration purposes. All private data has been masked. So this is an exact copy of the old Cliftonian Society website, except we've jumbled the data so it's not revealing any personal information. So when you want to get to the administrator search tool, you can see it's just under the users section of the administrator tools, and you can just click on search, and that brings you through to this interface. So I was just running some searches there, so I'm just going to use the reset all button, which will just take us back to the beginning. So the way this is laid out is that we've got three tabs across the top. The first is the core database search functionality, which we're going to be going through today. And then we've got the saved searches. So you can see we've got a number of saved searches here. We'll take a look at those in a few minutes. And then we've got the bulk search facility. The bulk search facility is simply a facility where you can paste in a whole collection of email addresses or student IDs or any field. So for example, you could type in a selection of mobile phone numbers and then just click search, and it will give you all the records attached to that. So that might be a quick way to run searches of records that you have found in another database. So if you've run a search in another database and you want to find them in your in the potentiality system, then you can just paste them all in here. So for example, a database might export that in Excel. You can just copy all of them, paste all the student numbers into here, and then go through to student IDs and run that search, and that'll just give you all the records. So if we so that's the bulk search and the saved searches, but we're mostly going to be looking at the database search functionality today. So under the database search, the first option we have here is groups. And you can see under groups you have entire database or search peer years or search groups. So we can select entire database if we like, and you can see there's a live count in the top right hand corner that tells us how many records are in the database. So they've got almost 20,000 records. The next option here is just search peer years. We can just say 2010 and beyond, and the count automatically updates to around about 1,000. Or then we can go through to search groups, and you can have as many groups on the system as you need, and these guys have a lot, and that was actually just because their groups were imported from their old database. So those guys actually came across from Razor's Edge, and these are just the constituents that were in Razor's Edge. Most of our clients would have a lot less types of groups than this, but obviously you can have as many as you need. So for example, we can just click on parents, and the count now updates to all the parents, and we might add to that their donors, and now that's just building that list based on which groups they're associated with. The buttons down the bottom, the tick boxes, are pretty self-explanatory. So let's go through to entire database and then run through to user fields. So this is every user field in the system. We have default user fields available that you can choose from there, but if you find that there's any field that isn't immediately available, you can add that to the list, and you can just type in, let's say, title, and we can put in the business title and then click add, and you'll see now that the business title field is available up the top. So any field can be added to this list. Running searches is quite simple. You can just type in Smith into the surname, and you can see we've got 87 Smiths, and you can search for the entered value, which I have done there, which is Smith, or we can search for blank values, and you can see when we search for blank values it actually removes the option of typing in a value, and they've got almost 5,000 records that don't have a family name, and that would be records like for companies or things like that. Or you could just search for the fields that have any value, so they've got 15,000 or 14,000-ish records that have any value, all but entered value, so now we're searching for anyone who isn't a Smith, and that's almost 20,000 records obviously, or contains entered value, so this is searching for records that have Smith somewhere in that in their field, and you can see we've got 131. There's a couple of extra options that we have available here. If we go back to any value, oops, sorry, not any value, entered value, so we have 87 Smiths, there's a couple of extra options that we can run here. For example, we've got the tilde, that character that you can see at the top, which is a sounds like search. So if you're not exactly sure how something is spelt, then we can just use the tilde character, and that's going to give us all the names that sound like that name. So if we just click on search, then that'll give us all those results. And the other character is the question mark character. So the question mark character is actually a replacement, a single character replacement. And that comes into play if you're doing, it's quite handy if you're doing dates of birth searches. What I might do here is just type in DOB and then add that to the list. And if we wanted to find everyone who was born in, let's say, we're going to go question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, slash 09 slash question mark, question mark. So that'll just find everyone who was born in September. We've still got this search on Smith, so I've now run a search on every name, surname that sounds like Smith that was born in September. So what the question mark means is that it can only be replaced by a single character, whereas another type of search is the asterisk search, which means just a wildcard search. So if we put Smith asterisk, that's going to search for every name that starts with Smith. If we do asterisk Smith asterisk, that's going to be every name that has a Smith in it. And if we do asterisk then Smith, then it's going to show us every name that ends in Smith. So they're just a few different ways that you can run different searches within the system. Just let us know if you need any more help with those types of things. So let's remove the Smith from the search. So now we're looking at all the database again. So you can see we're back at around about 20,000 records. And let's go through to events, payments, comms. So this is where you can run some pretty sophisticated searches on the database. So we could run, for example, a search on everyone who's attended an event. And you can see now that the database is showing us that 706 people have attended events. Let's see who's attended an event since January 2015. And we've got 647. Let's see who's attended 2 or more events since January 2015. We've got 83. So you can see we've got a number of fields here that we can search on, including names of the events, so you can really run some quite advanced searches. We can now cross-reference that with payments. So let's search for everyone who's also made a donation. You can see we've now got 11. So this can be a search for any type of payment or how many payments. At the moment we can run a totaling of all payments, so let's see who's given us a total of over £50. This is obviously a UK site as an example, and now we've got 8 people. So we can click on search, and because I was running some tests before, that's actually not given us results. So let's just reload that page and just build that same search again. So we're going to go entire database and search events for everyone who's attended since January 2015, 2 or more events, and donation of over £50, and so this has given us our results, and now you can see that we're actually getting our results. So you can see these are the people that we've run a search on. These little icons are just to give you a snapshot of their information, so you can see the bill there means they've made a donation, have attended an event, have logged in and updated their own profile. We have an email, a mobile, and a mailing address for them. So now that we've run this search, you can see we've got our opt-out options in the top right-hand corner. You can have as many opt-out options as you need. By default, we've got some opt-out options already ticked, so it's automatically excluding deceased or people from receiving administrator emails. You can just choose what is relevant for the message that you're about to send. You can also exclude people based on the communications that they have, so we can exclude people who don't have a mailing address, or we can exclude people who don't have email or mobile phone. You can see when I select the mobile phone option, it has actually removed the people who don't have a mobile phone. But let's undo that. So once you're done there, you can just click on select recipients, then click here, and obviously that's going to draft the email. There's a lot of functionality available in here. We won't go through this too much right now because there's enormous amounts of information here that we could go through, so we won't go through that in too much detail. But just to suffice to say, we've got emails, sending actual letters, and sending text messages available within that interface. When we go back here, other functions that you have available is we can run an export. As soon as you select anything other than communications, you can see up the top there it says that the unsubscribe options have been reset. So that's just a feature to make sure that when you run an export, you're exporting all the people that you've searched on. You can change fields for all, so what that means is that if you wanted to go through and in bulk change everyone who is a current student to now become a former student or something like that, you can do that by running a search on the students and then changing fields for all. Generate reports, this is a new functionality. This hasn't been entirely released yet, but we'll just give you an example of how this works. If we click on generate reports, we're brought with the report interface. You can have the ability to save reports down in the bottom right hand corner, so we've got an example report here which we've uploaded. You can create your own reports by inserting different fields within the database that you can see here. So this default report here has a title of confidential profile, it's got their name information, it's got their residential information, contact information, biographical information, different contacts options, so this is their opt-out options, and then down the bottom you can see we're listing their last 10 payments through the system. So all you have to do is click on generate files, and that's now just sending a PDF through to me that contains all that information. So again, pointing out that all the data here has been jumbled, so we're not revealing any private information, but you can see that we have one profile here, and then as we scroll down to the next page, we've got a second profile and a third profile, so on and so forth. So the end result here is that you can run searches on your top donors, or the people who have attended events, or the people who are about to attend an event and you'd like to just get a little bit of a background information on them, then you can just run those searches and generate these reports. Okay, so now what we can start looking at is running some more sophisticated searches. So what we will do here is just reload the page and just reset everything so we can now run some more sophisticated searches. So what we'll try doing now is building searches, and so let's perhaps run a search on entire database and then look for everyone with the surname of Smith, and we've got 87, but rather than returning these 87 people, let's contact people who are connected via a relational field. This client has 2 relational fields, so we're going to pick this one here, and once we pick that, you'll click on search, and the top records here are people that don't have contact information, the name information, but as we go down you can see we've got some records here. So these records are people that are connected via a relational field to the original people that we've found. And just to show how this works, if we right click over on the right hand side here and click on View Edit Profile, and we can go through to their family information, and in their family information you can see that this person is connected to a Smith. So that's how this person was found, because they are connected through this relational field to a Smith. And this little icon here shows that the reverse link exists. So with these kind of relational connections, they can be a two-way connection, and you can actually click on that text there and that'll bring up the profile information for this person as well. So you can just make sure that both sides of that connection exist. So here's that person, so you can see that we do have that two-way connection between Francis Smith and Andrew Balfour. So let's close that down. And so that's how you can run relational searches. Let's say that we wanted to run a relational search to find a particular type of person. Well, in order to do that, what I'm going to do is just add to the columns to display, we're going to add group, because I'd like to know which groups these people. So you can easily add new columns to this display by using this interface here. When you just start typing, it'll search all the fields within the database. We've got transactional fields over on the right hand side here. They only become available if you are searching transactions. So you can see we've got total payments. Obviously this is a UK site, but total payments in pounds, first payment date, last payment date, first event date, last event date, first communication date, last communication date. But we've added groups to this search, and then we can, oops, sorry, that's the wrong button. Then we just can click on search, and we've got the different groups that they're a part of. So you can see a few of these people are members of the OC group. So what I might do in order to demonstrate a different type of search here is if we go and reset the fields, and we're going to run a group search on OCs. There we go. Now, the original search here is of 10,995 people, because that's how many OCs they have. But actually, if I go down to the bottom here and select build searches, so rather than running a search where I'm ignoring the existing results, I'm going to run an intersect, which is it's only going to give me the people that were part of my original search and are also part of my secondary search. And you can see what it's showing up here in the count is that yes, we have 10,995 people that are part of this OC search, but the slash means that after the intersect we only have 53 people as a result. And I can now click on search, and once we start running intersect searches it can take a little bit longer to return results. But that's now running a search on all of the people who are connected to Smiths, who are, and that intersect hasn't worked. That's a bit interesting. So that's something that we're going to have to check out. Obviously the initial search is run correctly, which is turning 53 results, but that hasn't returned correctly down the bottom, so apologies for that. Let's move along. I'll get that checked out later. So the you can see we've got the in our list we've got here saved searches. So once you run a search and you want to actually return, keep these results permanently, you can type in test and click search, and you can see it's actually put this test result up the top here. And it's asking me now, would I like to save my searches? So it's put the test results here. You can save it now, or you can move it into an appropriate location and save it later. So I'll click OK and save that now. So now we can have a look at the save interface, and you can see here that we've got these overriding categories, and we can create a new category. So we might just type in something, and that category has now been created down the bottom, and we can move existing searches into that save category. So it just means that you can keep your searches in logical locations. You can see this client uses a lot of different types of searches, and what we can do is run counts on different searches. So you see these little question marks here. We can click on count all searches and it's going to go through and run a count on each of these. So it's a nice and simple way of actually just keeping tabs on how these searches will change over time. So all of these searches might be quite complicated searches and you don't actually have to run them. You can just click on count all searches and it'll tell you, for example, how Wales with email, that might change over time as people log in and update their information, and that just gives you an updated rundown of that. So that's how we save searches, but what we can do with the saved searches is put them back into the search interface. So you see we've got a few icons here. We can edit the name of this, so if we click on edit, we can change OC Mag Only into a different name. We can run this search, so that actually runs the search in the interface down the bottom. Or we can actually click the little eye icon which loads that search back into the search interface. So if we click on that, and it's now put, you can see the edit steps down the bottom, it's put the steps down into the edit steps. So this was a search that had one step, and if you see down the bottom here, this was a search on the solicit code of OC annual report only, and that's what is generating this search. And we, you can change these searches. You can add a new search to this step and then resave it. So this is just a way of running these different searches and editing them over time. So that's the searching tool. So that's, we've gone through that. We've had a look at the reports function. So look, this is all a completely brand new facility. We've had a lot of upgrades. This particular interface that you see here is paginated, so you can see we've got a number of pages that you can show, so it's much more stable when dealing with much larger searches. We've tested this with over hundreds of thousands of searches. It is brand new, so if you do run into any issues like the issue I've run into today, please report them to us and we'll get them sorted out for you. That's all we needed to go through today. Is if you've got any questions, please feel free to type that into the chat interface, and we can answer any of those questions for you. So yeah, we're going to be releasing a video that we've been recording today, and we'll be sending that out with the invitation for the next webinar, which will be coming out in the next few days. So no questions have been typed in so far. If you do have any questions, please feel free to just reply to the email that I sent out inviting you to this webinar and just ask any questions that you have. Obviously some of the things that we've gone through today are quite complex. Obviously you can run very simple searches with this, but you also can run very complex searches. If you need help running the complex searches, just let us know and we can walk you through that in more detail. So thanks very much for your time today and look forward to seeing you in our next webinar, which should be next week. Thanks very much. See you later.